Listening to Bad Dog Agility, bringing you training tips, interviews, and news about the great sport of dog agility.
I'm Esteban.
And I'm Sarah, and this is episode 231.
Today's podcast is brought to you by HitItBoard.com. HitItBoard.com has the innovative training tools you need for agility. Having problems with the dog walker A-frame? The HitItBoard can fix that. Your dog doesn't like tugging? They'll love the Tug It. Can't move your A-frame around by yourself? The Move It can. Go to hititboard.com and use discount code BDA10 to get 10% off your order. That's hititboard.com.
Today's podcast is also brought to you by 1TDC.com. Dog agility can be hard on your dog's body. Help keep their joints and muscles healthy with 1TDC. 1-tetradecanol complex is a clinically studied blend of unique fatty acid oils that can support your dog's joint health. 1TDC promotes a healthy inflammatory response from head to tail. All of our listeners will automatically qualify for a great 1TDC special offer by purchasing online at BDA1TDC.com. That's BDA, the number 1, TDC.com. This week's podcast is a continuation of the conversation we started with Amy Cook on noise sensitivity last week. If you have not listened to that podcast, number 230, you definitely want to listen to that one first before moving on to this podcast, where we start to talk about what we can do about noise sensitivity in our agility dogs. And now we will jump right back into the interview with Amy Cook. All right, so let's get into what we do about it.
What do you do about it? Well, noise is a thing we throw classical conditioning at. I think a lot of people know that, or hear that. Let's make a new association for noise. You think one thing about the noise, I want to teach you that it means a new thing, and that is directly in the realm of classical conditioning, which I can talk to you about without getting too geeky with all the terms and all the acronyms. We don't have to worry about that. Really, classical just means one thing follows another and you notice it. This thing happens, and I've noticed that it always predicts this other thing happening. And when a dog notices that, puts that together, you've got some classical conditioning happening. What you want is for a dog to say, hey, that noise happened. Oh, I know what follows it. Always what follows it is this good thing. And then they put the connection together and you're off and running. However, that's easier said than done, right? How do you do it? Oh my gosh, the technique for doing it, that's more complicated. I want to say here that when people try to do this, oh, I know, the noise happened, like the teeter banged. My dog looks scared. I'm going to follow it with cookies. I'm going to follow it with a good game of tug and hope that works. That's what everybody's doing, right? And it's honoring the letter of the law. It's saying, oh, I saw the bad thing happen. I'm going to follow it by a good thing, and my dog will put it together. However, the devil, as Ken Rennigan says, is always in the details. When your dog is already scared, it's not going to take much out of what followed. It's not really going to enjoy and fully embrace what just followed because it just got triggered. It just got scared by the sound that happened. And as you might, I know most of us can eat through our stress. Human beings can eat chocolate anytime, right? That's the thing. But when you're already really upset, yeah, good things can happen, but you're like, wait, but I'm already upset. I am not in a good learning place for this good thing to fit in. It seems to me to be some kind of weird human universal that we want to train during the problem. We want to train while our dogs are having problems. I'm sure you can right now contribute, I don't know how many agility analogies for my dog has trouble doing this, so I'm going to drill it right now. My dog has trouble in the ring, so I'm going to take him in the ring so that he doesn't have trouble in the ring anymore. I'm going to go in the ring a lot so he stops having trouble in the ring. Well, he's having trouble in the ring. You're rehearsing more troubles in the ring if you keep going in. That is not the solution. If your dog is having trouble with any noise, pick a noise. We're going to just pick teeter bang because it's just so straightforward, but you can fill in any noise here. You don't start with teeter bang and say, let me teach you about teeter bang. Your dog says, I already know about teeter bang. Teeter bang is terrible. So I'm not open to any new lesson about this right now. I have an opinion. I have a strong opinion already. We have to take this completely out, or I suggest that we take this completely out of context and teach them how to learn about noises safely. Before I apply it to the very thing that you're scared about, I want you to understand. I want not only the dog to understand, but I want the trainer to prove to themselves that they can reframe noise before they try it on their big stakes.
Right.
So you practice completely out of context, and you practice with things that completely trigger absolutely no fear in the dog at all, no concern in the dog at all. You have to start from a place where everything is great. I feel wonderful. These practice noises we're using don't scare me. In fact, they're doesn't scare anybody. It's a pencil dropping to a carpet. There's nothing to be scared about. Or pencil dropping to a cutting board. I like to use like a plastic utensil on a cutting board. Most dogs are not afraid of that sound. And if they are, we should be talking about medication, because that's an extreme level that is very different. So you take a very, very neutral sound, one that that you would bet me your dog is absolutely not only not afraid of, but would find just either neutral or maybe a little interesting. Totally fine. And you teach them that sound is going to predict something really, really amazing. And you put it in the framework that I suggest, which I can just go over the 4 elements of. And once you prove to yourself that you can train that, and once your dog says, oh, there's a thing that happens when sounds happen, normal sounds, easy sounds, no big deal sounds, but you get very predictable when this happens. I want them to have that cemented down into their DNA of what happens when sudden, but yet not at all scary sounds happen, before you even begin to think about trying it as a counter conditioner. If you can't condition something, I don't want you trying to counter condition. And so what I mean by that is, if you can't teach something on a neutral stimulus, on a neutral object, I don't want you trying to teach the same thing with an object that has meaning that you're trying to counter. Mm-hmm. You can just you can just be ineffective and doubt that it will work at all and throw up your hands and give up. And I don't want anybody feeling like they can't do this. So we practice absolutely forever on sounds that don't have any meaning to the dog, so you can work out your kinks, and so that your dog can say, I get it. I get the framework. Noises, and then this. I totally get it. I really love this. This is awesome. Great. Now let's do it on 4 other sounds. Oh, I totally get that. Does this sound count too? How about this sound? You're like, yes, it does count. And they think they're in one big game. And then you start sneaking in, yeah, how about this slightly concerning sound? And they're like, what? And you're like, nope, same game. They're like, really? Great. That's awesome. And now you've already told them that there's awesomeness in this, and you're being able to trigger really big, good feelings that counter the bad feelings they were having. If you don't start by telling your dog frameworks, if you don't start training agility by first training dogs that, hey, food comes from me when you do stuff, right? If a dog doesn't know that its behavior can be traded for stuff from you, or its behavior triggers you to do fun things, if it doesn't even get that, we're not talking about going around stanchions. We're not talking about jumps, right? Because the dog doesn't understand training. So I think we're addressing noise sensitivity from a place that's far too advanced, and setting both the dog and a human up to fail if we don't start it much further away from the problem, all the way to the place of neutrality. Teaching a framework that has a reliability to it, so dog can go, I get it. I totally know how this goes. You're not going to solve the problem. But once you do have that framework and you started early and the dog really gets it, it's just a matter of knocking the pins over. For the most part, it's just step by step and you get there.
Okay, and to me, this is genius. And I know a little bit about what's coming because I actually signed up for a workshop that you did. And you teach at Fenzi Dog Sports Academy. You have several courses there, various topics. And one of the things you did was noise sensitivity. It was a $30 workshop that I signed up for. And honestly, I still have about 15, 20 more minutes of the video to go. I got to
you don't know how it ends. It's like a movie. How does it end?
How does it end? Because everything I'm seeing so far, I'm just going to tell you now is genius. Because I'll tell you, with respect to the teeter, this is the way that most instructors are going to deal with it. Okay. We recognize that there's a noise issue with the teeter, and what we do is try to soften the noise. Okay. And then just flood the dog with rewards. Right. That's what everybody's going to do. They're going to put a towel. Right. They're going to put a towel underneath the board.
Okay.
Right. They're going to lower the board physically by hand so it doesn't bang it with as much force. So, of course, the sound produced will be less. So in some way, we're going to try and lessen the sound. We're going to flood them with rewards, hope that they make the association, and then usually quite foolishly within the same session, try and get it all the way back up to the same amount. Say, hey, okay, now we just need to do that a couple of more times and everything will be fine. But fortunately, we're not going to have a teeter on a course in class for another month or two. So,
right. And then he gets used to your teeter in class and then he can't do it at a trial and he goes, oh God.
Exactly.
He gets used to the max 200 and then he's, he can't do that.
Right. So what are we doing wrong here? Because I would say that 99% of agility trainers are addressing noise sensitivity on the teeter in this way. We just pick the same noise, we try and lessen it up a little bit, we beef up the rewards, and we say, aha, problem solved.
Well, I would ask that trainer, is the problem solved? And if the answer is yes, they did a fine job. Mm-hmm. Really, because it could be that in a, however we define this emotionally stable dog, sound stable dog, they might have, this might be the first time they heard that. And they had some questions. Okay. I don't know what this is. And I have questions that maybe they're edging on concern, but how can you tell? I'm just not sure what that was. And you say, oh, let me soften this for you. So it's not so hard for you to unpack, and let me follow it by a bunch of cookies. And the dog, maybe after a few reps or an hour, not an hour in a row, but I mean the hour that you're doing it, says, oh, I had some questions, but you know what? I get it. It's just that this thing hits this thing and I'm okay with that. And that is going to be some dogs. They had some questions and you answered them and you softened it a bit. So they had a chance to learn without being overly like, whoa, hang on. Let me think. Okay. But that's not going to be every dog. Because if they're already scared of it, you're having to fight back the tide that came in. The tide came in. The dog said, oh, nope, I don't know what this is. Oh, God, this is really scary. And your food is not going to have as much value because you're trying to throw it at a dog who's like, I have feelings and they're hurting me on the inside. So as a behaviorist, as a trainer, I don't like gambling. I don't like taking a shortcut. Although the human side of me loves gambling and loves taking a shortcut, right? But the trainer, right? We want to say, maybe it'll just go away if I just, and when you luck out, you get reinforced for it. Yeah. But when we gamble, when we don't take the long road, we all know it's better to take the really long road, right? Why go in the ring super early with tenuous behaviors, right? Why don't we just really nail this down and get it fantastic with a super bomb-proof before we go in? Why not nail it down? With noise sensitivity with the teeter, maybe your dog was going to be fine in a few reps or a few sessions. But if he wasn't, you've just really kind of dug a hole in the wrong direction. You really cemented it. You gave him lots of reps at something he was scared of. And you threw a bunch of cookies after that maybe you're starting to poison, right? Ick.
Right.
Or give new meaning to, is what poison means. You're giving some scary meaning to that. I just don't want to gamble with that. Start seeing weirdness about noise. I'm like, you know what? We stop this teeter. I'm going to teach him how to handle noises in his world. And then I'm going to apply that to the teeter. And maybe that was a lot of work and maybe we didn't quite need it on that teeter, but so we gave him a prophylactic approach to every noise for the future now, which everybody needs. I want to give this to every puppy. We don't know who's going to be noise sensitive. We don't know anything about adolescence and future adulthood. Every dog should have a framework for noise. So I want to stop if I see anything like that. And frankly, really an agility instructor can say, here's some noise stuff for your puppy from the beginning. We're not going to do teeter for quite a while. You go do the noise stuff. There's absolutely zero reason not to lay this foundation. But certainly you see some problems with the puppy or with any new agility. I'm going to call a stop because fear, I got to tell you, it's not like the things, a lot of agility and obedience and sport instructors are not behaviorists and they don't really see how to handle, and that's not to their credit. That's not their specialty. They don't know how to handle behavior problems, and noise is a behavior problem. It's in the behavior realm. If you see it, you got to stop because it's so easy for it to spread. It's not like, a broken start line or, a breaking of a stay, or, misunderstanding and back jumping. It's not just a behavior that's offered. It is in a different category. It's why behaviorists and dog trainers kind of have a little bit of a division. Fear spreads, it's incredibly advantageous to have that spread big because it saves your life, right? Fear doesn't respond super quickly, whereas behavior just does. A behavior is arbitrary. Should I jump it this way or that way? You can say, not that way, do it this way. Dogs go, okay, you've explained it, I'll do it. Fear has irrationality to it. It's an emotion. It doesn't respond really quickly to going away. So it's something I take immediately seriously. Oh, you're showing fear? Okay, we're stopping. Addressing that directly, because I just to become a much bigger problem than it already is now. And it will if I don't take it seriously. I don't want to see dogs who have teeter bang problems pushed through it for the few dogs that will do okay. Because the ones that don't do okay now have a much bigger problem we have to address. And you know, like everything else, it's easier to address small problems than big problems. Stop all forward motion, go address it. It will. It's penny wise and pound foolish, or I forget how that saying goes, but you know what I'm saying, right?
Right.
I'm going with that?
Me too.
Yeah.
Me too.
Yeah. So one thing that I wanted to ask you, and I think it'll help really convince people that they need to work on noise because nobody is immune. And that is, why do we see noise sensitivity in dogs? Because I think it is easy to think, well, if I can just get through the teeter, I'm going to be okay. And I think when you look at all the reasons why a dog might be sound sensitive, you realize you should know how to deal with it, because it could very well happen to you.
It could very well happen to you, even if you don't have a teeter bang issue. You
Exactly.
probably don't have a teeter bang issue, right? I have 2 dogs. One does, one doesn't. She's 8 years old, and I didn't do any noise protocol with her. Didn't need to. She showed no sensitivity, right? That's going to be a lot of people. A lot of people's dogs aren't afraid right now, until they are, and right until they are. And that's certainly not to say that every dog will become noise sensitive. Not every dog will. But because we can't say who will, it's not the same as, say, fear of strangers. You can see fear of strangers early on. You might have a dog who's slightly afraid of strangers all their life, but well managed, or you might have a dog who you rehabbed and they really got okay with the strangers. But it's unlikely that a dog who's unafraid of strangers is going to, at 5 years old, just become afraid of all strangers. They tend to be pretty stable in how they feel about that. There can be trauma, something absolutely terrible happens, but that's reasonable. You would understand that, and then you would help fix it. You don't prepare for highly unusual traumas, right? But when it comes to sound, dogs absolutely can acquire this as life goes on. Something weird about the aging process brings this on, and dogs who are middle-aged can acquire a noise sensitivity that was just out of the blue. Dogs who slept through thunderstorms can become dogs who panic and shake and drool and hide at 5 or 6 or 7 years of age. I'll get a call, I'll get an email, I get them all the time. Gosh, my dog who was fine is suddenly very noise sensitive. And my response to them, whether it's internal or an actual question, is your dog 7? Yes, how did you know? That dogs, I don't know why we should ask a vet. I don't think a lot of vets know yet, but I believe there's some reason to speculate that it has something to do with noise processing changes, either in the ear or in the brain where noise processing occurs, is changing in the aging process. But since we can't ask them, we can't say, hey, does the noise distort now? Does it sound funny? Did it all of a sudden get much higher than usual? Can you only hear part of it and it's confusing you? We don't know. But dogs get noise sensitive when they're older. Or can. I've already had 2 do that, and I'm waiting to see if this one will at 8. So far, so good. But been in my own medicine, she's been started on the noise fear because I don't know, and I want her to have a meaningful framework so that I can respond when she starts to have questions and say, hey, these questions you have, I have an answer. This is just one of those cool games we play. Don't worry. This is not something you have to worry about, to the best of my ability. And if that isn't going to work for dogs who really develop a strong phobia, we go to veterinarians, we go to drugs. But, so getting back to agility, your dog could be 6 or 7 and never having had a problem. And now is starting to, just because of the fact that they're aging and things are changing, and you won't see it until you see it. Right. Does that answer? Did I get to your question?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I think I think that is something that we've experienced as well. And talking to other people is the whole age-related thing. And I think that it's important for people who aren't aware that that's a thing to be aware and to recognize it when it happens, because like you said, I don't have any answers, but I've had enough dogs to see this happen. And I think that when it happens to your first one or two dogs, you think, what happened that I didn't notice?
Right. Did you get scared? What happened? Yeah.
Right. You were fine. Was there a thunderstorm when I was at work? And I think that after having seen this with so many dogs and having talked to other people who had similar experiences, I'm starting to recognize that age-related change. And I think that's why, like you said, give this protocol to every handler out there, every puppy out there, because chances are, not bad that you are going to have to address this at some point in your dog's career.
Yeah. And you're going to have more than one dog, probably. If this is your sport, if this is your life, you have more than one dog. So, I just have come to consider this basic training. You want your dogs to understand that how clicker training works, to understand that cues get attached to stop. This is, for me, this feels like a basic level of game you can play, because you're going to drop your keys right next to your dog, because you're going to have a door slam and your dog's going to have a question. These are just normal life events. And while, of course, those things are not usually scary to anybody, they present you fun training opportunities to just practice your protocol so that it stays nice and sharp for those times when you're like, oh, that one actually was scary. Oh, geez, I need to get on this one. But I do it for my dogs when I drop my keys. I have one she's a Chihuahua. She's small, and dropping keys is a much bigger event than it is for the Shepherd or whatever. So I show her that dropping keys is actually just one of these dumb games we play. I drop keys and it's great for you. We're going to have a blast after that. So yeah, we should teach it to everybody if we can. I want to put it in every puppy that I have at the sound of my voice, teaching them the framework.
All right. Well, let's talk a little bit about the framework. If that's all right with you.
Yes.
Because I have a 9-month-old poodle right now, and she's a little more noise sensitive, I'd say, than any dog that I've ever had before. We'll be having a great session, agility, tugging, play, and suddenly in the middle of it, she'll hear something. And usually I also hear it.
Yeah.
Maybe it's someone who's starting up a leaf blower a couple houses down. Maybe a dog barking in the distance. Sometimes it's the dog inside the house. So if we're working in the backyard, the old border collies are upset that, their time has passed and they're retired and they're inside the room and they're going to scratch at the door, and the scratching can be very, very intense. And so even though to me, I don't even notice the scratching anymore most times.
Yeah.
For her, suddenly she stops and she starts thinking about it. And I know we discussed some of these things before. Maybe not just noise sensitivity in those situations.
Sure. She's just thinking about her safety on all the fronts. Our dog's coming, should I be a young puppy again? I'm 9 fragile right now, right? Yeah.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. So what is the big picture general overview of the protocol? This is what people have been patiently listening to this podcast. They've been nodding their heads and saying, yes, this is my dog. Yes, those are my problems. Yes, this happened to me. Yes, I have a new dog. I don't want this to happen again. What can I do to prevent it? Why won't they tell us? Why won't they tell us?
You said framework like 20 times. What are you talking about? Okay. So the bare bones version that everybody who's worked with noise or has anything you can read on the internet of classical conditioning, the bare bones is that your bad thing has to be followed by a good thing. Okay. So that's where I started. Straightforward. The bad thing, which is the noise. Of course, for us, we're going to start with something neutral, but the bad thing is the noise. And you want your dogs to think, oh, that just predicts a really good thing coming next. Then that makes the bad thing not so bad. It's kind of like a thing to look forward to. It tells me that good things are coming. So that's pretty good. That's how it works. But since it's difficult to put into practice sometimes, it's hard to get the details right. I just decided to codify, here's some things you can follow to get this right. Okay. So not in the teaching of it, but in in it being conducted, how it works in its final form is that first a sound happens. We are going to make sure it's a neutral sound for a long time. First, a sound happens. The very next thing that I want to see happen is a human being gasping. I want you to gasp in surprise. Just like that. Just, I swear to you. Yes, very well gasped, my friends. I swear to you, most dogs have meaning for this. I don't really know why. They just turn to look at you when you do that. I don't know if it's because we're humans and we do that a lot. I don't know if there's something in a dog. I'm not sure, but I've hit on, I noticed that that's it's also a thing you're going to do when something terrible just happened. You're going to go, what was that? When you get startled, or you're startled because you have a reaction. So I want that in there. Then after the gasp, I want you to have a cue, a verbal cue that says that you're about to have an amazing party. You're about to throw lottery winnings at your dog. You're going to have an amazing time. You can just call that noise party, but a lot of people, and you make up stuff. I have students who call it kaboom, and students who call it green light, and students who call it party on, and you can call it banana, and I don't care what you call it. But it's got to be a thing you're going to say, and you're going to remember and willing to say out loud in front of people. So maybe not banana. Bananas, that works. Bananas, sure. And then I want you to commence with the best party you can think of that your dog agrees with you about. It can't be the best party you have and your dog's like, nah, this one's all right. It needs to be your dog's best party. So if that's, tossing up in the air one at a time, the best treats, and they're chasing them and coming back and chasing them and running around, you're tossing and they're catching some of them, and you do it for, I want to say 15, if not 30 seconds. I want it to be a long time. It's not the handing over of a few treats. It is a party. It is a party they would write home about if only they could write, and if only they were not already home when you were doing it. I want a party. Okay. It can be your tug. It absolutely can be. But you need to be having a blast. Now, all of those elements, because of classical conditioning's rules, need to be in isolation. So I don't want you to run those all through in the space of 1 second, because your dog's going to go, what? Oh, partying. Okay. I want each of those to go in isolation. The noise happens. You gasp. You say, noise party, and then you do your party. I want you to also have, at each of these stages, proof that your dog understands each one of them. Because as you're training this, if you don't have proof that each one of them has meaning, you don't really have a chain put together. This is a chain, and each one needs to have meaning. Your party needs to have meaning. That's easy to judge. Your dog is enjoying the party and is engaging with you. Okay. You need to have meaning to the cue. If there's no meaning, when you just say noise party, if your dog doesn't go, what? And look at you with excitement and anticipation of the party, then your cue doesn't have any meaning, right? And we know that. For your gasp, I want it to be when you go, your dog absolutely looks right at your face. That needs to have meaning. If your dog doesn't look to you, it doesn't know what the gasp means. And so each of those I want in place. First, we teach it backwards. We back chain it. So if you're teaching this at home, you start with a really, really good party, and you teach it well, and you watch it on video, and you prove to yourself that your dog loves it. Fantastic. Then you get it on cue. Most of you are experienced enough trainers that you know how to put something on cue, but really it's just you say the cue and then you do the thing. You just a slight beat between them, so your dog has a chance of seeing that they relate. So your second phase is noise party. Then have your noise party. Okay. Right. When that's all well and good. I want to
interrupt you there because you're like, okay, most of you are good trainers. Okay. I'm going to stop you right there because it turns out that people are constantly getting the order wrong. They do it simultaneously at best, but for the most time, they kind of tip their hand, right? So what if every time I was going to throw the party, I went and I got the food, and then I gathered it up, and then, I started digging around in the bag, and then I did all these other things, and then I did my party word.
You know what? Yeah, it's okay with me. Here's why. Because I want to have, in fact, I want to build your anticipation for this party. I want you thinking we're going to have the party. We're just not having the party yet. I've got my food here. I've got my toy here. I seem to be all ready and everything. Gosh, I'm wondering when the party would start. Boy, it seems like it's ready to start, but boy, it just doesn't seem to be happening. The dog is going to be like, well, it kind of looks like we're going to have a party. Well, how come we're not having the party? And I wait a beat, I look at them, and then I go, noise party. And they go, oh, it only happens after you say the thing. And then you throw your big party, right? If that cue ever more salient. Yep, all the other cues are here. Why aren't we having the party? Why this is good is because really the cue for the party is the noise. We haven't gotten there yet.
Gotcha.
And I want them to think, well, the party could be coming any second, but I guess I'm waiting for a noise. And now they're thinking, well, noises are pretty good because they predict my parties, right? So it works in your favor. Have all the stuff around, but when you're going to put this on cue, I just want you to be isolated. Say the word noise party, or your word, and then have your party. Do your best to keep them slightly separated. If they ever so slightly overlap, I'm not going to call the police, but just keep them a little isolated.
And one thing I think I've gathered from what you've said, but I wanted to make it explicit, is because this sounds an awful lot like a click and a treat. But I'm guessing you would say, don't use your click, don't use your yes, because that you want it to mean not just a treat, but a party. This is like a super click.
Yes, this really is. And it's even, it's even different from a click, and it's in two ways. One, that I want it to have this meaning. It's not going to apply to anything else. So have a unique word, and only do it in this framework. So noise party is a thing you never will say. So go right ahead and say it as your word. Do not pick anything you normally say. That's one thing. The other thing that's different from it being a click is that it will be completely irrespective of their behavior. You'll never be marking a behavior with it. You'll never be training a behavior with it. It is all by itself, just saying it's information.
Right.
It says we're about to have a party. That's it. Hey, you know what? Party time. And they go, oh, thank God. And they just start jumping around for their party time. When that's in place, when you have that, when you can say party time and they go, yes, party time. Now it's time to gasp. You just gasp. They look at you. And when they look at you, you can say party time because they're looking at you. It's time to say your cue. And you go right into your party. Now you have 3 elements of the chain. And lastly, when that looks good to you, and that usually goes pretty quickly because the power is really mostly in the verbal cue. When that looks great to you, you start to make your noise. And there's a way I'd like, we're not going to go into, there's starts to become detail here about how to make the noises, how they should look, which ones you should pick, whether a dog should see or not see it. We go through a lot of detail there in the class that I teach. But the first step of it is, hey, dog, look at this fork. I want you to see it like a plastic fork or a chopstick on a cutting board right in front of them on the floor. And all of your listeners can absolutely start at this level, assuming their dog isn't scared of that. You're on the living room floor. You have a fork. They're looking at the fork. They've seen the cutting board. They've smelled it. They've investigated it. They're not curious. There's nothing going on as far as they're concerned. This is weird. What are we doing, Mom and Dad? While they are looking, you drop the fork about 2 inches on this cutting board, which makes barely a sound, and it's not a big deal. Guaranteed not a big deal. The dog just looks at that with curiosity, but so? And you gasp. And they look up at you. What? Why are you gasping? And you say, noise party. And they're like, oh my God, really? And then you go and you have your noise party. That is your first iteration through the whole framework. The noise has happened. The dog looks at it probably, or doesn't. That's okay. You go, and they go, what? And they look at you. And in that space where they're looking at you, you get to tell them what to think. Noise party, buddy. And they're like, oh my God, that was amazing. And they have an amazing noise party. And it's starting to connect to the fact that it's noise. When this starts to settle in, you'll make a noise and they're already looking at you before the gasp. They're like, I get it. And the gasp just confirms that they're on that train going forward. And they're just super excited about the whole thing. If you don't have this frame, why I want you in this framework, this is all still classical conditioning and you can do it in different designs. But why I pick this design is because in reality, you're going to gasp when a noise happens. And your dog will have meaning for that. They'll go, oh, are we in the train? Oh my God. And then you'll say noise party, which confirms for them that this is a great thing. And that buys you time to go get your noise party implements because you might have been not ready for this. Something dropped. You weren't ready. You gasped because oh God. Your dog goes, oh, really? Is it gasp time? Are we going down the framework? And you're running to your bag and your crate saying, noise party, come on, buddy, noise party. And you're running together toward where you can have your party. It buys you that extra 15 seconds to get what you were doing. When people try to do classical, they think, and they're right, but they think, the noise happened. Oh God, I got to get the cookies in right now. I don't have any cookies. Oh no. Yeah. So I put together a framework that lets the dog all feeling good before you get all the way down to the party for when you're not ready. I'm not really ready because I know how reality is and people are not ready because that's how it is, and this helps you bridge that time.
Well, that is absolutely brilliant. I think that there is officially, as of this moment, a race between the golden and the poodle on which puppy is going to make it through these 4 steps first, because I'm going to go tonight. If I know
you're going to back chain it.
That's right.
Back chain it.
We're going to
dog is going to tell you how fast you get to go. Your dog's going to.
That's true. We're not going to skip these steps. We're going to do it right. We're going to be trying to con the other one into picking up the kids so we can go have our secret training.
Yes.
Such good information.
It is, and the more time you take, I swear to you, it's like it's more like letting paint dry. The more time you spend at getting that cue meaningful, the better this is all going to go. Because they'll go along with the flow. If you make a noise and gasp and say noise party and party, you'll see the framework just kind of go along, but they're not anticipating each part of it. They're just going with what you're doing, and they'll do it. But if you can prove to yourself on video that when you say noise party, everybody perks up and goes, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, then you're like, all right, I can move forward. I've proven that I have a link here. I have evidence that you have the link assembling before you put the next one in the chain up. Because what we're trying to get is emotional change. We're not trying to get a dog who will follow along with your party when you offer it. We want a dog who is changing inside, saying, this is exciting. I know what makes it more exciting. It's when you do the thing. You do the thing and it's coming. You gasp, I know what comes next. You want evidence at each stage before you start thinking about noise. And then definitely before you start thinking about real noises. These are going to be fake noises for weeks, I would say, several weeks before you even move forward. But yeah, you can have a competition. I'd like to see who's going to win this. I'd like to see who's going to win.
All right. And so for those who are listening who want more of this, because this has been amazing, and they want more like this from you, where should we send them?
You should send them to the Fenzi Dog Sports Academy for sure. Where I teach. I teach a number of different classes there, but I do teach this noise sensitivity protocol in a 6-week class. So I walk everybody through each step of this. I'm in charge of telling you when you can go to the next step so that I was about to say I judge the quality of your party. I do. I will to make sure that it passes muster, make sure it's good enough for your dog. Your dog agrees. And I'll help you make the decisions of what noise and when and how to go. And it's a 6-week class. It's called Sound Advice, Conquering Noise Sensitivity. And it runs starting December 1st. Registration will open in November. We run classes they're 6 weeks long, but they run every 2 months at the Fenzi Dog Sports Academy. We're running one term right now, which is still open. Registration is still open in general, but I noise class this time. I have it next time. And if you kind of can't remember that, you can also go to my own personal website, which is playwaydogs.com, where I have, my events and what classes are coming up there. So either location, I give those classes primarily. And then I also do webinars in this stuff, but those have kind of like a limited buying window. So you got to remain kind of on watch for those. It's hard to tell when those are coming up, when my one of this topic will come up. Right. But the class is predictable. That comes every June and every December, right around the booming time for 4th of July and for New Year's Eve.
That's true.
That. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's true. I was like, what booming time in December? But you're right. New Year's Eve.
New Year's Eve, man. New Year's Eve, drugs and noise protocol. Yep.
Well, thank you so much. This is absolutely fantastic.
Yes, thank you.
Can't wait to put it into practice for our own dogs. And we were excited to have you on.
Yeah, this was really, really fun. I'm a longtime listener, and it's been great to be here. Really wonderful.
And that's it for this week's podcast. We'd like to thank our sponsors, hititboard.com, 1TDC.com, and NTI Global. Fall in love with our agility products. Visit shop.ntiglobal.com for the widest selection of dog agility tunnels for both competition and backyard training. Known for free shipping, more options, high-quality products, and low prices, NTI Global has got you covered. They also offer tamer and anchor weight bags along with a full line of accessories and agility storage solutions. Need your agility gear in a hurry? Don't forget to check the in-stock selection. Visit shop.ntiglobal.com and use promo code 2019 Tunnel Products for 5% savings off today. Promo code good through October 31st, 2019. Happy training!